started with our first question, just to dive right in, right? Given your fingers are really on the pulse of the next generation, the future of coaching, right? This has been such a disrupted space, as have many of our professional spaces in the past few years. So what are some of the most disruptive changes you've noticed in the coaching industry specifically?
I would say that's a really good question. I would say that the disruptive change within the coach world and the coaching industry is really a response to the disruptive change that's happening in the world and thus the workplace itself. So, for instance, a couple of things that come to mind for me, the first thing that comes top of mind for me is generational diversity. So this is something that I'm hearing over and over again from leaders, from the C-suite team, from people who are trying to figure out the best way to connect with their organization, with their teams, is how do we address generational diversity? It's certainly a disruptor where there are, at this time, 5 generations at work, from traditionalists to baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. And they all come with their own specific communication style, their own critical thinking skills that are derived from, one, their own lived experiences, but also just the world that they've all come up in and what has been their norm. So when you have all of these people essentially in this one ecosystem, how do you communicate and how do you lead and coach them all? Because one size does not fit all. So that's been a huge disruptor within the industry, the workplace itself. Thus, as a coach, coming up with a strategy and a way to help leaders to be able to address that challenge or that new opportunity, I like to say, is something that's disruptive in our industry. The second thing that I like to mention that is a disruptor, but it's good, because now people are catching on to, and I like to say it's the secret sauce, that coaching is not just for because something's wrong or you're doing something bad, but people are now catching on to the idea of, coaching is simply an opportunity for me to continue to grow, continue to develop and improve, and to be a bit more strategic about the path that I actually want to take as a professional within my field. Thus, the disruptive part on the coaching side is a lot of the coachees, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, but a lot of the coachees that are in the current, our current roster, I should say right now, they're already top performers. So as a coach, how do you coach someone who is already doing so great? And so it's pushing the coaches to think in a bit more innovative and out of the box way, if you will.
Those are two great points. I feel on the subject of generational diversity, I think that's a real blind spot. It's something that I myself will sometimes catch myself like forgetting that we do have this insane span across generations, and their experiences, especially today, are so different, right? You have these digital natives on one hand who are very casual with technology. And then you have people who have evolved alongside the evolution of technology, but recently it's just gone haywire.
Exactly.
So that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And it's something, again, it's one of the reasons why I mentioned it first is because as leaders are now being, honestly, it's the generational diversity that is influencing the direction of the workplace in itself. As I mentioned, each generation has its own set of lived experiences, its own set of, social climates that they've, come through and survived, but have also been conditioned to. For instance, when millennials entered the workforce, there was this massive shift in the workplace that actually changed the trajectory of what used to be the American dream when it comes to a workplace or a job, meaning that the historical definition of the American dream job is just to make a good, livable wage, just to have, decent benefits, to be able to, provide for your family and get your kids through college. And then I like to say, get old enough to retire and, get you a retired house in Florida,
Yeah.
for the rest of your time. But that has drastically changed, and it most recently changed when millennials entered the workforce, where now people, what they consider to be the American dream or a good job, is more about a sense of belonging, is more so about being connected to a bigger purpose or a bigger goal beyond themselves. But also, are they growing as an individual? Like, am I not only just growing within the organization, but am I becoming a better professional? Am I growing? What's in it for me? Of course, pay is always in there, but it's more so now as it pertains to retention and what people consider a good job. It's, do I feel that I belong here? Am I connected to this in a way that's outside of just, I'm an employee and you're my employer?
Right. And it that both raises the bar on expectation in terms
Right.
of like that relationship between employer and employee. And then also to your second point,
Mhm.
introduces a really nice opportunity for that ongoing kind of coaching self-development journey.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mhm.